Welcome into the show, everybody. My name is Mark Farzy. This is the Farzy Show, presented by MyBookie. It's nice to have you along for the ride here. Here's the deal. Anyone, and I do mean anyone, who has DJ Moore on your fantasy football team, congratulations. No, I don't have him on mine, so this isn't like, he's on my fantasy. And no, I'm not playing against him. Like, I'm not playing against him in fantasy. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if you have him on your team, congratulations. 3 touchdowns last night in the win over the Commanders and 230 yards receiving. So congratulations to you. Now, to tie it back in generally to Philadelphia sports, I consider the Eagles to be a better football team than the Chicago Bears, but gosh, did the Bears take it to the ground. I know the Commanders came back and made a little bit of a game of it, and it was really adorable that they did that. But what the hell, man? I understand it's a divisional game, but the Eagles couldn't do that to the Commanders. Come on. And the Commanders are home. Oh, my goodness gracious. Anyway, welcome in. We got so much to get to today, including the Rams, Eagles preview, Eagles-Rams preview. We got the Philadelphia Phillies getting on the plane to head to Atlanta for the first game of their divisional round series starting tomorrow night, as we know now, at 6:07. So someone's going to be getting to bed a little bit earlier this time. Mwah. Well, you guys probably go out and party. Yeah, good for you guys. I hope you enjoy. So we'll get into that conversation, of course. I made this promise to you guys. I made a couple of promises, and I feel like I've done I feel like I've kept those promises to you. I have limited the Taylor Swift conversation, regardless of a mandate from the NFL that you must talk about it. Anyway, and then I also have not talked about James Harden unless it's been absolutely necessary to talk about James Harden. And then today it's going to be absolutely necessary to talk about James Harden, mainly because the Phillies didn't play last night. No, but in all seriousness, even if the Phillies did play last night, I would still talk about this news with James Harden. And the latest from the Athletics, Sam Amick, he put it out there saying that the LA Clippers are still trying to scrounge up and rally around more draft picks, get them in the house so they could trade with the 76ers, who apparently are stuck on the Terrence Mann, and they're also stuck on bringing in more draft picks, more first-round draft picks. That's apparently what the Eagles, the Sixers are stuck on. Well, it's a good. Those are two good things to be stuck on. I am all for that. But remember when they said that the trade discussions were dead? The Sixers are ending trade discussions, right? I remember the Clippers that are ending that. All that was BS. Remember the time I said it was BS? Well, here we are. Hi, still BS. James Harden has shown up. He has been a nice little teammate for the first 2 days of training camp. But yes, the trade conversation has not ceased quite yet. And if there's no fat suit, he looks good. If there's no throwing basketballs at teammates or anything like that, and Joel Embiid is saying that how great James Harden did, not a distraction and all that, well, then I can only assume that there was some sort of deal put in place with the liar, Daryl Morey. All right, I'll show up, but you got to trade me. The wheels are in motion. The wheels are in motion, Jimmy. They're in motion. Okay. Let's start it off with this Philadelphia Eagles team. For me, I'm going to give you my big things that I'm looking at for this game as I do each and every week. But here's the number one thing. Like, I don't want this to get lost. Okay. I don't know. We don't know. Nobody really knows, I guess, except for Cooper Kupp and Sean McVay and other people within the organization of the LA Rams. I don't know if Cooper Kupp's playing. That is huge. Bradley Roby's going to have to play this game if he plays. I saw Sal Paolantonio was on this very network. Well, it was on Jacob Media, and he said yesterday that he can't have Bradley Roby play fast enough. Like, you can't get him in an Eagles uniform and on the field fast enough. I'm in that same realm, especially if you have Cooper Kupp running around for Matthew Stafford and you add him with Nakua. I would like to have that. Now, this is going to get into my top 5 things, so let's just jump into it right now. But I wanted to get that out of the way because that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest factor in all of this. I'm going to start it out right here. So you're looking at the idea of the Eagles taking on, if Cooper Kupp is Cooper Kupp, the best receiving core you could take on. Now, the Eagles have had success against Justin Jefferson, for instance. They have had a good time against Justin Jefferson in recent history. He's the best wide receiver in the game. He's the only guy that has more receiving yards than Nakua right now, who's a 5th-round pick rookie playing for the LA Rams right now. So, yeah, it's going to be a little bit different if you got 2 of those running around. So that's the number one thing. Just pass defense versus this receiving core, especially if Cooper Kupp is playing in the game. Nakua is coming off a 163-yard performance last week in their win over the Colts, Shane Steichen's Colts. So that's a guy that can certainly find the football. That's a guy that has already developed a rhythm with Matthew Stafford. Now, it's not that hard. Matthew Stafford is a very good quarterback. He's obviously a Super Bowl winning quarterback. We know what he can bring to the table. And he certainly had to deal now with injuries when it comes to his receiving core. He's going to deal with injuries in his own right. So now it looks like he is certainly starting to get back on track. They haven't had that big wow me type of game just yet, but Nakua has certainly had those wow me type games throughout the season. That's why he's second in the league in receiving. Now, on top of that, you got to add that to the Eagles' secondary. So if Josh Jobe is out there running around, he is coming off so far a couple of games here as a starter where he has allowed 100 passer rating when targeted. That's not good. I like Josh Jobe. He's been in the right spot. He's been there to make the play, but he hasn't made the play. He's been there to make the stop, but he hasn't been there to break up the play. I would like to see him there to break up the play. 100 passer rating, that's no good. Darius Slay, your number one guy, supposedly, allowed 100 yards last week. And I know you can always say he gets torched against McLaurin. I believe this point this season, he's allowed a 90 passer rating when targeted. That's not good either. And now this is going to be a team that's going to be facing this passing attack of the LA Rams. That is a worry. That is a concern. But wait, there's more. Last week, Tyler Higbee had over 60 receptions. That would be a record. 60 receiving yards. I didn't realize. I know the Eagles are just historically bad against tight ends. Like, it seems like it's the thing that we're always talking about. Like, I don't know, every single year it's like, all right, well, the linebackers good enough. It's like one of the big questions and concerns that we have going into every season. And then it goes right to, we can't cover tight ends. Why can we never cover tight ends? I didn't realize the Eagles are the second worst team in the NFL at covering tight ends. Tyler Higbee's a good tight end. He's not like a great tight end, but he's a good tight end. He can make a catch for you. He can get some yards after the catch for you. He's a good tight end. Last week, he had over 60 yards, which doesn't sound like a lot. But he was also the most targeted receiver of Matthew Stafford last week against the Colts. The Eagles have allowed, are you ready for this number? I had to like double check this number to make sure I didn't I was in the right column, okay? The Eagles, as I mentioned, have allowed the second highest passer rating to tight ends in the NFL this season through 4 games. Second highest. How high is it? 142.6. What? 142.6. So the first thing is Cooper Kupp. Right after that, in general, it's the Eagles' pass defense against the passing attack of Matthew Stafford and the LA Rams. It could be even more stacked than it's been to this point. And you could also have a tight end out there that you just allow to dominate you. So let's hope they don't do that. Those are the first 2 things right out of the gate. The second thing I'm going to be looking at is what should be the saving grace in all of this. Now, the Eagles have put up these numbers already with one of the best pass rushes in the entire NFL. The Eagles are actually 5th in terms of quarterback hits this season, and they're 8th in terms of pass rush percentage. Okay, so pass pressure percentage. So you could say that they still put up these numbers, but still having that defensive line and at times linebackers like Nicholas Morrow last week be able to get into the backfield and cause some havoc. Okay, cause some chaos. But this game is going to be something they're going to have to absolutely rely on that, because Stafford is not anything close to a young, mobile quarterback. He is not that at all. Now, the counter of that is that he can sit in the pocket and get the ball out in a second and a half and not allow that pass rush the opportunity to win their one-on-one battles or break through a double team or allow the blitzer to come to the middle and be able to get after him. This is going to have to be a game where you will sacrifice guys in coverage to get into the backfield. That's the third thing I'm looking at in this game tonight, or on Sunday at 4:05. I'm going to be looking at how this Eagles team is going to get after Matthew Stafford, because I'd love to rely on the fact that the Eagles just throughout this season and historically have been able to get after the quarterback. But in this particular game, that has to be their saving grace, because if Roby doesn't play and you have another situation where James Bradbury is on the inside, and listening to Nick Sirianni this week, by the way, on that, it all but sounds to me that they are moving James Bradbury back to the outside corner spot, and rightfully so. And if I had to bet money, I would say that Bradley Roby does play in this game. But if he doesn't, and you have to rely on what you've been doing over the last 3 weeks, I'm going to have some concerns about whether or not the Eagles can win this game. So there's a lot of ifs that factor into my decision here, my prediction. I'll get to it in a second. But looking at it like this, the number one concern I said is the pass defense. The saving grace of this has to be that the Eagles defensive line, Jalen Carter, for instance, as we know, Fletcher Cox not playing in this game is a huge concern for me as well. That's going to give more opportunities to guys like Jordan Davis. It's going to give more opportunities to guys like Jalen Carter. Obviously, Milton Williams, I think, is the guy that really has to step up in all this. But this pass defense is going to have struggles in this game. Your defensive line has to rise to the occasion. If you don't have a good game with your secondary, you're going to get eaten alive. This is going to be something that the Eagles have struggled with when it comes to quick scores in the first 4 games of this season. Now, they're coming off games here, or a game here against the Commanders, where quick scores they were able to get, whether it was the 59-yard touchdown reception on the fake screen to A.J. Brown, whether it was the 32-yard pass, whatever it was at the end of the game that was debatable as to whether or not Jalen Hurts should have thrown it for the final touchdown of the game against the Commanders. The Eagles have had issues for the most part this season with the quick strikes. The Rams will allow those, but it's been a problem for the Eagles so far this season. The splash plays that we talk about so much, that's a concern. It all is going to change if your defensive line can control the game. That is going to be difficult. And I know people rag on Fletcher Cox for not having enough sacks, and everyone around him passes him on that number, or whatever the case may be. But this is going to be a game we have to find a way to make sure you're getting home. This is going to be another big test. And that brings me to the fourth thing, the chess match. I love talking about the coaching matchups because I always think that's something that gets pushed aside because we look at the numbers of the players and we look at, those are the people that we're really focused on. This is going to be the biggest test of Sean Desai. Sean Desai versus Sean McVay. What is this chess match going to look like? It looks like McVay could certainly have more pieces out there, right? And it looks like Sean Desai is going to be missing a big piece when it comes to Fletcher Cox in the middle of that defensive line. That's a huge concern. And I have been waving pom-poms for Sean Desai this year. And that's even after the game against the Commanders, where they struggled mightily to keep the Commanders off the board. This is going to be the biggest matchup of the game. Sean Desai versus Sean McVay. If I'm Sean Desai, I test my line of scrimmage. I test my defensive line. I see how they battle against this offensive line. I see if they have a one-on-one battle that they can exploit, that they could win. I see if a guy like Milton Williams can. I have that boxing match in the first quarter of the game, get that feel for the other side. If you're not getting home, if you're not winning those battles, if reports from the field are that they're struggling in that regard, then you activate the blitz button. You hit the blitz button, and that's something that Sean Desai has not been scared of doing. And we talked about it earlier in the week with Hollis Thomas about how this team has not been scared to do that. And they might have to do that in order to get Matt Stafford off his mark. Don't let him get comfortable. Don't let him find that rhythm. Strict pocket passer, that's what he's going to be trying to do. That's how he's had a career. Get him off that mark, and you're going to have success against him, force him into some mistakes. If he is the 8th most pressured quarterback in the league, and you're going up against one of the most pressure-bringing defensive fronts in the NFL, that should go in the Eagles' favor. So let's cross our fingers that that actually happens. And Sean Desai actually finds a way to make that happen. On the other side of this, Aaron Donald, last thing I'm going to be looking at in this game, number 5. And it's the most obvious because when you talk about the Rams, you talk about Aaron Donald. He has 2.5 sacks at this point this season. He's off to a slow start. I don't give a damn what kind of start Aaron Donald's off to. He's still Aaron Donald. And if Jalen Hurts is going to wait in the pocket, and I've mentioned this many times throughout the week, we've had games against we've seen him in games against the Bucs, for instance, where he has stood in the pocket. He has been like that Matthew Stafford, sit in the pocket, feel the pocket, manipulate the pocket, sit there and be patient. That's not going to exist. It didn't really exist last week against the Commanders. It's not going to exist this week, certainly with Aaron Donald in pursuit. Now, Aaron Donald's going up against, in my opinion, the best offensive line in football. Jalen Hurts, we let you hear from him yesterday where he talked about not running the football as much. That opportunity hasn't presented itself. I wouldn't be surprised if this game started to, I hate to use the word devolve and make it seem like a negative, but if the Eagles had to rely a little bit more on Jalen Hurts' legs in this game, that wouldn't surprise me. I think one of the things the Rams are going to do is they're going to try to get into that backfield. They're going to try to get after Jalen Hurts. I don't think you're necessarily going to see a lot of quarterback spy situations. When you have Jalen Hurts lighting it up, coming off a week like he lit it up in the passing game last week, his best passing game of the season, and you're going to have a game where A.J. Brown's coming off one of his best games ever, and you have a guy like Devontae Smith who you also know can explode at any time. I mean, like if you're if you're an Eagles fan right now, you're looking at Aaron Donald, you're going, well, he does not have that great a year. Okay. Well, then if you're a Rams fan, you might be looking at Devontae Smith and say, oh, he's not having that great. You're looking at A.J. Brown. Yeah, Devontae Smith can break out a monster game at any moment, and you and I both know that. The Rams fans might not be thinking about that. They might be thinking, oh, he's having a down year. No, if you try to take away the other is going to explode. Try to take away one of the receivers, the other's going to explode. I look forward to seeing how the Eagles are able to exploit that in the upcoming game here. But bottom line is, always be aware Aaron Donald is. Don't be fooled by the slow start to the season. So those are the 5 things I'm looking at in this particular game with the Eagles coming up against the Rams. The Rams, by the way, coming to this game 2-2. And like I said, I don't know if this helps them. I find it to be an interesting thing, though. The Eagles are coming into, or excuse me, the Rams coming off that game against Sean Desai. I'm just curious to see whether or not, very curious to see whether or not the Rams come into this game with any bit of okay. Well, we saw what the Colts were doing with Shane Steichen and his offense. Let's see if the Eagles do something similar. Wouldn't be surprised. I did find it interesting though, and a little bit different but similar case. Trey Lance for the Cowboys is now going up against, not going to play the 49ers, who the Rams only lost to by a touchdown. Excuse me, allergies are killing me today, people. Pardon me. I know that's annoying, especially for the people on the podcast. Anyway, looking at it like this, with the Rams taking on Shane Steichen's team, I wonder if they have any goods on what the Eagles could be doing in this upcoming game, because they do run very similar offenses. On the other side of things, Trey Lance now with the former the 49ers, now with the Cowboys, it's now public that they're picking his brain about what the 49ers could be doing. They're picking his brain. What are the 49ers going to do in that Sunday night game? By the way, if there's one thing I'm looking forward to in this weekend that has nothing to do with Philadelphia sports, it's the Sunday night game. Cowboys, 49ers. The last time those two teams faced each other was the divisional round of the playoffs last year, with the 49ers coming out of a defensive battle on top 19-12 before they went on to face the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. That was, I didn't realize it, that was Dak Prescott's worst playoff game. Both teams in that defensive battle were held to under 300 yards total offense. Dak Prescott in that game posted a passer rating of 63.2, I want to say, through 2 interceptions. And before their final drive of the game, before their final possession, where I think it was Dalton Schultz just stepped out of bounds, didn't get that second foot down, and then that ended up running a lot of time off. They needed a touchdown, obviously, to win that game. And then, the 2-point conversion. But it would have been insane. Would have been absolutely incredible. But they weren't able to execute. But they were able to get over the 300-yard mark of total offense in that game. That was a wild one. And now they meet again. Now, these teams are supposed to be the upper echelon teams. I am certainly not rooting for the Cowboys in this one. But how devastating would it be to San Francisco, a city that just thinks about us nonstop still? How devastating would it be if they actually lost to the Cowboys on Sunday night at home? That would be. I would enjoy that. I would enjoy that. I would absolutely enjoy that. By the way, on the Cowboys, I know they're coming off another dominant performance of a football game, a 38-3 win over the Patriots. What is really amazing to me, I came across this last night. The Cowboys corners have more touchdowns than the Cowboys wide receivers. That seems like it's very rare. Your corners, your defensive backs have more touchdowns than your wide receivers. Your linebacker has almost as many touchdowns as both your wide receivers. That's insane. That's 2 wide receivers. That's bonkers to me. That means there's at least 2 other guys that are active as wide receivers that don't have as many touchdowns as Leighton Vander Esch, who returned a fumble recovery for a touchdown last week against the Patriots. They had 2 defensive touchdowns last week. That, what's his name? Duran, the defensive back. I'm blanking on his name. Duran. Blade? Brown. I don't know. Anyway, Bland? Is it Bland? Anyway, the pick, he had a pick 6 again last week. He's got 2 on the season. Cowboys are sitting pretty. They are sitting pretty. Very interested to see what they do against Brock Purdy. Very interesting. One stat on Brock Purdy I want to give you guys in reference to that Sunday night game coming up. This is pretty wild. Do I have it? I have it. Most consecutive regular season wins to begin a career. Ben Roethlisberger leads the pack at that with 15. Mike Tomczak, how about that, with 10. Mike Livingston with 10, and Brock Purdy with 9. So he wins 1 more. He'll join an elite company of only 4 players with at least 10 wins in a row to start a career. That is not too shabby. So if there's one thing I'm looking forward to this weekend that has nothing to do with Philadelphia sports, it is certainly the Cowboys and the 49ers kicking things off Sunday night in that game. I'll give you my prediction at the end of the show when it comes to Eagles-Rams coming up here on Sunday at 4:05 in Los Angeles. So we'll get to that conversation. Let's jump ahead to your Philadelphia Phillies. You're going to be taking on the Atlanta Braves in the NLDS coming up tomorrow night at 6:07. I still haven't seen the first starter or the starter for game 1 just yet. I'm going to go ahead and assume it's going to be Ranger Suarez taking the hill for the Phillies. And that makes sense to me. The Braves also have not announced a starter yet for that game. I have this issue, and if you guys have been listening to me over the last couple of weeks, especially, I've said this many times. I know everyone likes talking about how this team is built to win. We had Matt Breen from the Inquirer on the show, and he talked about how this team is built to win. Then, sure enough, like 2 days later, Rob Thompson is in the dugout talking about when they just clinched a playoff spot. You guys are built for this. You guys are built for series in the playoffs. The Braves with their pitching staff and the Braves with the amount of home runs they hit, and I know the Phillies and Braves were damn near identical when it came to home runs hit, I think, after June 2nd. So that's good. That's a great thing, especially now that Trey Turner has woken up since August 4th. August 5th. If there's another team that was built for the postseason, it's the Braves. The thing that makes people go against that idea is that last year in the postseason, they choked. They choked. One of the best teams in baseball for the majority of the year. One of the best team in baseball, really, the majority of the year this year as well. And really nobody's expecting big things to them from them. I saw Doug Glanville recently said, who's an analyst for, I think, ESPN Radio. Doug Glanville got into the idea of the revenge factor for the Braves. That doesn't scare me. If you're trying to look at it objectively, like someone who doesn't give a damn about this game, and you're just like, oh, you've had to pick a winner or whatever. The Braves are the team that jump off the paper to you, but you can't believe for a second that choke factor doesn't apply at all. And the Phillies winning their last series of the season against the Braves, I think, is very, very much worth noting in all of this, because they needed that confidence factor that it wasn't just last year in the playoffs, that they were going to be inferior to the Braves in any way. It was, okay, let's prove it to ourselves this year that we could take it to the Braves. Let's prove to ourselves this year we could take 2 out of 3. And they did that. They split a 4-game series earlier in the year against the Braves. I believe that was the game Aaron Nola had one of his best starts of the season. So you want to see that when you see him come to pitch in this series, most likely game 3 at home. That's one hell of a 1-2 punch. If you have Suarez pitching like he pitched in June, for instance, this year in game 1 of this series, and then you're able to come back with Zach Wheeler the very next night, that's a hell of a 1-2 punch right there. And then you got Aaron Nola coming out to make a start as well after now 4 straight starts of not allowing more than 2 runs. His best stretch, like I've talked about many times in the season, 3 straight at least quality starts, better than quality starts. If he has found his groove, the groove that has made him a Cy Young candidate in years past, yeah, that is going to be pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. So that's what I'm looking forward to. It's really the fact that the Phillies could be that perfect matchup. Anybody else the Braves would face, whether it would be the Dodgers or the Diamondbacks or whoever it might be, the Brewers, let's just say that too. Anybody else that they would face, that factor doesn't come in. The fact that it's a divisional opponent, a team you're supposed to be better than, a team you've beat in the regular season, that factors into this, where you don't want to choke against the team you know you demolished in the regular season standings. Now, I remember when the Phillies would go on a 4-game winning streak, 5-game winning streak, whatever, they'd win 8 out of 10, whatever it might be. I would go back and I'd look at the standings and be like, you know what? The Phillies have been on a really good run here. The Phillies have been on a really good run. Let's just take a look and see if they made up any ground. I did it throughout the season on Fighting's postgame. And let's just, for instance, let's see, 14 games. They fell to the Atlanta Braves in the divisional standings by 14 games. Phillies already took care of business against the Marlins. Phillies now do take care of business against the Braves. The Braves, it's so wild to me, just as a baseball fan, the Braves are an incredible baseball team. A lot of talent. You guys know the roster. A lot of talent. But for whatever reason, I just feel like the Phillies can be their kryptonite. They were their kryptonite last year. And something tells me the Phillies really, really love being the kryptonite to the Braves. If you're the Braves, this is the one team you didn't want to face. That's what it comes down to. Of all the other teams, like I mentioned, whether it was the Diamondbacks, whether it was the Dodgers, this is the team you did not want to face. You did not want to face the devil you know. Usually the devil you know is better than the one you don't. In this particular instance, I don't think the Braves wanted anything to do with the Phillies. I can't wait. And last night, it's like I told you guys before, like opening day in baseball. The worst day in sports for me is the day after opening day in baseball. Because it's like you get so ramped up and ready to go, and baseball's every day. And then they're like, okay, off day. And now it's back. I hate the day after opening day. This definitely competes with it, especially when you're riding such a high of watching those 2 games against the Marlins at Citizens Bank Park and watching just how intense everybody was. It was a thing of beauty, to say the absolute least. One last thing regarding the Phillies. How amazing was this? If you haven't seen it, I've retweeted it. I don't know if Scott Van Pelt used it or not. I doubt it. But Charlie Manuel yesterday I thought he was kidding, because before game 2 against the Marlins, he tweeted out, I took batting practice today for physical therapy. I was like, oh, that's great. And then there's a picture of him sitting down watching the game in the hospital, recovering from his stroke. And then yesterday they tweeted out the video. Charlie tweeted out the video himself of him it looked like he was being supported a little bit by a physical therapist while another person was tossing him a ball and he was hitting it with, I don't know if it was a PVC pipe or what it was, but he was taking batting practice. And I'll say this, single up the middle, scores 2 runs. That's what it looked like to me. It was the best thing I saw yesterday. Still that line from Scott Van Pelt. That was the best thing I saw. Continued upswing, Charlie. Pun intended. Continued upswing to you. So if you haven't seen that, definitely check it out. Like I said, it's on my timeline, and it is a beautiful thing to see. Next up, covering all the bases here today. Pun not intended there. I've made a promise to you guys that I wasn't going to get into the Taylor Swift stuff. I wasn't going to get into the James Harden stuff unless it was absolutely necessary. Now it is absolutely necessary. The Sixers, again, because the Phillies didn't play yesterday. But yesterday, James Harden, the story comes out from Sam Amick of The Athletic that the LA Clippers are in a scramble right now to acquire more assets, more picks to trade to Philadelphia for James Harden. This makes me feel good about the market. This makes me feel a lot better about the market. that they still want James Harden in Los Angeles to play with the Clippers. And it makes me feel better about a means to an end. Because one thing I am absolutely done with the Sixers, and it is so unbelievably frustrating to me that we're still in this drama-filled world of 76ers basketball as opposed to talking about a team really, truly contending for a championship. It's one of the things that's amazing to me. We went through sometimes the injuries are just unavoidable. Joel Embiid missing 2 years, Ben Simmons missing a year. Then we had to deal with the Ben Simmons drama. Then we had to deal with the Jimmy Butler drama. Well, we had to deal with Jimmy Butler drama. Then we had to deal with Ben Simmons drama. Then there was, good Lord, there was the burner accounts of Brian Colangelo, the different GMs, Jerry Colangelo being here, then Brian Colangelo being here, Elton Brand having control, Brett Brown having control for 5 minutes, then Elton Brand having control. Now Daryl Morey's here, all that stuff. And now we got to deal with the team just not being good enough on the court. And that's the ultimate. I don't need a second year of Ben Simmons holdout, cell phone in the pocket BS. To this point, according to Joel Embiid, James Harden's been a wonderful teammate. He's been glorious as a teammate. That's wonderful. That's beautiful. I love it. I just don't think it's going to last for very long. And I think the only reason that he is here is to help the idea of him being traded. To help the process, God forbid me, I even use that word, to help the process of the trade. So now the report's out there that the Clippers are in a scramble to acquire picks to make the trade. I think this is something that if it does go down, it goes down before the season. I don't think this is going to be something that drags out until the trade deadline. And that was my prediction from the start. I think the longer this goes on, the less value James Harden has. Now, maybe because we're this late in the offseason where we've already seen teams already reporting the training camp, maybe this is the latest they're willing to make it go before the Clippers go, you know what, we're out. We're out. We're not going to, we know that you're not going to be trading him for anything less than your original ask. Even if things start to hit the fan, you guys are willing to forfeit the season, essentially, and have him be a distraction as the season goes on. Joel Embiid said yesterday, he's not a distraction. Season goes on, team's not winning, he's not playing, then that's a distraction. So as of right now, it's great to see the Clippers still interested, still kicking the tires to try to acquire James Harden. If it drags on, that's where I think we're just in for another drama-filled year of disappointing basketball. Those are two things that are insanely annoying. The other reports that came out regarding James Harden was from a one Stephen A. Smith. Now, you may say it's not Woj, it's not Shams, it's not those two guys. Not Ramona Shelbourne does a great job covering the NBA as well. Who, by the way, broke the story yesterday. Joel Embiid saying he's going to play for Team USA. Turned down France. Said Cameroon, thanks, but no thanks. I'm playing for Team USA. Saying his son, Arthur, being born in the United States had a lot to do with that. Whatever. Beautiful. I think that's great. I'd love to watch Joel Embiid in the Summer Olympics. But Stephen A. Smith put out a story yesterday on First Take where he cited a source, a very credible source, saying that James Harden was offered a max deal by the Houston Rockets. And James Harden said, this will be great. I'll go back to Houston, and I'll become the scoring champ again. Ime Udoka, former Celtics head coach, and, of course, former Sixers assistant coach, highest paid assistant coach in the league, by the way, at that time, apparently was out on that idea. He did not want to. He wanted to bring along the young talent and not have this be like, yeah, we'll pay you max money, but we don't want you to be the scoring champ. Like, it's not going to be all about the James Harden universe down here. Take your money, and that's that. And then James Harden and the Rockets couldn't come to terms on, I guess, the style of play. That is what Stephen A. Smith put out there yesterday. Stephen A. Smith's been around a long time. Stephen A. Smith has plenty of sources. Stephen A. Smith knows the game of basketball. I'm not disputing any of that. All I'm saying is that makes zero sense to me. So you mean to tell me James Harden wasn't going to take that max money that apparently he's after because he wasn't going to be the scoring champ at the upcoming NBA season? Really? Really? Because obviously you could stay here in Philadelphia and not be the scoring champ in the upcoming season and not get paid as much. So why wouldn't he take more money and still not be? So hold on, I'm still not the scoring champ, but I make a hell of a lot more money. Where is he? Is he gonna go to LA and be the scoring champ? That report, I believe there's a sliver of truth in it. I don't believe it's completely BS, but I'm just saying it doesn't pass the smell test, and not just because my allergies are crazy tonight and I can't smell anything, but it's because it just doesn't make any damn sense to me. But that's the report that's out there right now. So there's two things surrounding James Harden. One gives me hope that this deal will be done before the season starts, and the Sixers will start their roster or their season with a roster that they'll have for the majority of the year before the trade deadline, and they maybe have a tweak or two along the line. But one thing I do hate, and it's been proven time and time again, whether it was Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris, or whether it was James Harden himself, the teams that make that huge acquisition right before the deadline, they need that time to gel. They need that time to get on the same page and build that chemistry and build that trust. They need that time. This Sixers team has failed time and time again when they've made those big acquisitions throughout the year. You make a nice acquisition at the start of the year, you have an entire season there to work it out. The Tobias Harris, Jimmy Butler year, that was crazy. As Brett Brown said that year, I had 4 different teams. Tony Roten. Anyway, that was a pretty insane year. As we all know. Let's tell you about the great people of MyBookie, ladies and gentlemen. How fantastic is MyBookie? Take advantage of all they have to offer right now. Like, for instance, the promo code Farzy. Use promo code Farzy. You see it in the scroll there, up to $200 in cash bonus when you bet on NFL, college ball as well. Brand new cash out systems that give you options to bet and win all season long. First 2 legs of your parlay hit, cash out early and place another bet, or let it ride for a chance at a bigger payday. Join us at MyBookie for an entire season filled with daily odds boosts, same game parlays, and huge prize pool contests. Right now with MyBookie, no strings attached cash bonus that lets you deposit and withdraw quick. And you use promo code Farzy for your first deposit up to $200 in cash bonus. How insane is that? When you look at MyBookie, mybookie.ag, just use promo code Farzy at MyBookie to claim your cash bonus right now. You can bet on anything, anytime, anywhere, only at MyBookie. So check out all that MyBookie has to offer. Let's get into the chat check and see how you wonderful people are doing on this fine, fine day. Going to start it off on the Farzy Show page here. See how you beautiful people are doing. Oh, wait, hold on. You know what? There's one more thing I wanted to give you about the Phillies. I forgot. Sorry. Tomorrow night, ticket prices. This has become a huge talking point, as we all know. Huge talking point. Saturday night in Atlanta. Here's your price range. $97 to $4,449. So your cheapest ticket right now in Atlanta is $97. Your cheapest ticket in Philadelphia for Game 3, so $97 in Atlanta, $278 in Philly for that game. With the highest price being in the same ballpark, pun intended. So $4,400 essentially in Atlanta, $4,500 in Philadelphia. Folks, I feel like this is the argument that has been going on my entire life. And if it's going, I just feel like this is the way it's always been. Family of 4 takes this much money to go to a game. Yes, it sucks. It absolutely, I don't care if you're the richest person on the planet, spending that kind of money for 5 hours of fun, like what you could do with that money anywhere else, essentially, is insane. Like to take a family of 4 to a game with parking and tickets and food, concessions, the souvenir is bonkers. If you're having beer yourself, right? Let's say I take my 2 kids to a game, and my wife comes out obviously as well. But actually, she's not invited. No kidding. It's insane. It's bonkers. I feel like that's been the conversation, though, my entire life. I remember my dad talking about it. I remember my mom talking about it. I remember their friends talking about, oh, to go to a game, it's this, that, and the other. It's like, that's just, I hate to say it, this ain't changing anytime soon. The only hope that we have is what teams like the Atlanta Falcons have done, where like nachos are $4. That's the only hope we have. But when you talk about just getting in the building for $278, good Lord. I do feel for the people that can't experience it, can't go and experience it. And I'm not talking about like me getting in with a credential. I'm talking about me paying for a ticket. Like, that sucks. But I feel especially bad for the people that really would want to go to something like that. And then you see people like Nebraska half shirts. Not that I'm complaining. They don't seem to really care. And they're, this conversation is never going to end. And it's the conversation about tickets just always becoming more and more expensive. Sweet Lord, that sucks. It really does suck. So you can talk about, $4 nachos is great, but unless it's, I paid $5,000 to go to a game. How much were the nachos? $4. I got a deal. It's like why Costco has that $1.50 hot dog. Oh, it's only $1.50? That means everything else in here is a good deal too. People go buy the hot dog. They go buy the hot dog. All right. Anyway, I said I'm going to get to the chat. Let me get to the chat. Dynasty 215. You sat Fields last night? Who'd you start? What were your options? Fields or who? Who'd you start in your fantasy team over Justin Fields? Sean Kilrain, good morning. IBH, what's going on? Mally, smoke if you got him. Sean Kilrain, what's up? Had DJ Moore, thank you very much for the 54 points. Holy Stromboli. Sean Kilrain, there you go. Mally, Mark, did you hear the story of Houston wanted him? Yes, I did. But he talked his way out of it. But say he wanted to be a scorer. Yes. Yeah. See, that was from earlier in the show. So, yes. April, what's going on? April! Sean, IBH. It appeared to me that Slay was trying to play center field to help over the middle. Maybe. I hope that's the excuse. I will pray that was the excuse. Let's all hope that was the excuse. But again, this is insane to me. Looking at the numbers, Slay 100 yards last week. Josh Joe was allowed over 100 passer rating when targeted. And now you're facing not only the second leading receiver in the NFL to only Justin Jefferson, you're facing a guy who's won the Triple Crown in receiving numbers 2 years ago. Or last year. That's pretty bonkers. That's a little frightening. Oh, and you also have the second worst pass defense against tight ends. And you're facing a good tight end. Cool. All these are great. Anyway, I'll give you my official pick next week. Or next week at the end of the show. That's what I'll have going for you guys coming up in a second. That much I promise you. Where do I leave off here? Fuji, what's up, Mike Fuji? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I missed this. Sean Gillespie, can't sleep on the Rams, whoever their quarterback is. I concur. I don't think this is an easy game. Let me just spoiler. Mike Fuji, good morning. No Fletcher Cox this week. That is true. Sean Kilwright, I think Cox has a back injury. Baby Rhino and Baby Hulk Davis gonna eat. I hope so. Good matchup for our secondary this week. Yee! I don't know. I don't want this matchup. April, totally unrelated, but the Savannah Bananas put out the schedule for next year. There's a stop at CBP. You guys need to enter the lottery for the tickets. Their games are a blast. That is pretty awesome. Essentially, the Savannah Bananas, if you don't know, are like the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball. It is a pretty good. I've had people reach out to me and be like, do you have a connection to Savannah Banana tickets? And I'm like, I do not. I'm sorry. I do not. Mike Fuji, who's playing right guard this week? I think Opeda's playing right guard this week. With Cam Jurgens in a boot. Here's the thing. Lane Johnson came off the field last week when Opeda was in there. And I think Opeda got 40 snaps. last week against the Commanders. And he just said that the rhythm, the flow, the communication was on point with Opeta. So I would be just flat out shocked if Opeta was not your starting right guard Sunday. Dak's worst playoff game out of Sean Gillespie. Dak's worst playoff game out of 4. He's played more than that. I think he's played more than 4 playoff games, maybe 5. But you know what? I love accuracy, so why not be a little bit more specific with Dak Prescott here? But I was looking at it yesterday when I was going back over that game, and I was like, hold on a second, his passer rating was only that? That seems like it sucks. And sure enough, it did suck. Oh, did it suck? Oh, it sucked. Dak Prescott. Punch up the postseason here in my research department known as Google. 6 playoff games. Where is it? Where's that John at? 63.6. It's also the only playoff game where he threw more than 1 pick and threw more picks than touchdowns. Wow. He sucked. 62% completion percentage. That's not his worst. Holy Lord. The last 2 seasons where they've lost to the San Francisco 49ers in the postseason, he has had his 2 worst playoff games. Womp, womp. Both losing close. That's a shame. That's a shame. Anyway, so 6 playoff games. He's 4-2 2 and 4 in those playoff games. That's where we're at on the Dak Prescott history machine. My buddy paid $500 a ticket for Game 3 for 2 tickets. Holy Lord. Sean Gillespie. Dallas has played bad, mediocre quarterback so far, but I hope they beat the whiners. This is the thing where I don't say I'm rooting for the Cowboys, but this is the thing where I say it'd be nice if they won. I'm not rooting for them. If they lose, I still get to point and laugh. If they win, I just get to bask in the idea that the Eagles are the only undefeated team left in football. That's a good thing. April. I'll be happy to see Harden gone. I'm over the drama. Ditto. Sean Kilrain. I see somehow the Cowgirls will show up and beat the Whiners like the Bears or the Commanders. You agree, Farzy? I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it happen. And I do agree. I just don't. I don't see the comparison between the Bears and the Commanders. That's the only thing. As far as divisional goes, yeah, just whoever loses in the division, I'm good with. Or if you're in the conference and you finally hand the 49ers their first loss, I'm all for that as well. Yeah, so it's a win-win. It's a win-win. I think the bigger win is the Commanders. Excuse me. So now I'm doing it. Is the Whiners, the 49ers. I couldn't think of the real name. Is them losing. Because then you become the only undefeated team still in football. Yes, you could say that Dallas Cowboys, then they take another loss, and that's good for your own division. I don't think it's going to be an issue winning the division. You're going to play the Cowboys twice. You can handle your business. You can take care of that on your own. You can't take care of the 49ers till later in the season. So I'd rather do that. My buddy paid $500 a ticket for 2 tickets to game 2. That's insane. For $4,000, you better be able to bat at least once. Sean Gillespie, great. $4,000? I got a European vacation, $4,000. Let's see. Couldn't agree with you more, Farzy. I'm in that boat with 4, says Sean Kilrain. Other things I could do with that money. Yeah, man, it's nuts. Sean Kilrain signed up for the Savannah Bananas lottery tickets. Good for you guys. Let me jump over to the Jacob Media YouTube channel, see what you guys got going on over here. Joe Wilson Arena, what's up? Rise and grind. Close the week out strong, fellas. 5-0 on the horizon. I can't wait. This is such a perfect weekend. It really is. All the way up until Sunday night. Because that's going to be a hell of a game. Can't wait to watch that game. But obviously you have the Phillies going on tomorrow night, 6:07. You have time to party afterwards, folks. I won't. Don't miss me here on the Jacob Media Fightins post-game show. Don't miss that. Been getting a great response for the first 2 playoff games for the season. It was good. It's been great for the playoffs, as you would assume. But yeah, we have a great weekend coming up here, and the Eagles improving to 5-0. JP, good morning, JP. Good morning for the UK. Thanks for another great show. Thank you, JP. You're very kind. Embiid playing for Team USA in the World Cup. Do you think? I thought it was the Olympics. Do you think that commitment by Embiid will give even more motivation this season coming up? Thanks, mate. That's a good question. Whatever helps Joel Embiid experience a championship atmosphere. Like, I know a lot of people are going to look at it and say, "No, what if he gets injured? What he needs time to rest. All that stuff," and that's true. And I'm not throwing that out the window, but just looking at the positive side of it, I want to get him as close to a championship atmosphere as I possibly can. And if Team USA is going to be more motivated to bring back the gold for the first time in a little bit, then I want Joel Embiid to be a part of that atmosphere. So, yeah, I do think it could add to the motivation. Regarding next year's Basketball World Cup, could the tournament as a whole be the most star-studded tournament ever? There's going to be the top NBA and European League, EuroLeague players on the show. Yeah, I absolutely think that could be the case. Absolutely. JP, by the way, fellow Eagles fans, we're good. It'd be bad enough just falling into a trap, even if being a Cowboys fan. Never mind being a fan of them and having Dak as a quarterback. Laugh out loud. I'm so happy I'm an Eagles fan. Well, there you go. All good, JP. All good. All good. Yeah, I am going to bask in that as well. Whatever downfall the Cowboys do have this year, because it's going to come and it's going to happen. Let me get back to Eagles-Rams, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks, everybody in the chat. You guys are fantastic. Let me get into the morning rush brought to you by Sky Motorcars, skymotorcars.com. This is not going to be pretty. This is a game that I think we're going to sweat out to the very last second, and I know nobody wants to hear that, especially after you just came out of an overtime win over a division rival in the Commanders. This is going to be a very hard-fought game. By the time it's all said and done, I think Jalen Hurts has a couple of splash plays for the Eagles. I think Jalen Hurts breaks off a 25-yard run in this game in a clutch situation similar to the way he did last week against the Commanders. And I see this game being a 24-20 Eagles victory. I know people are going to be looking at the over, but for me, I am looking at this game as being more, as you would expect, or not expect, of a lower scoring game. This is going to be something where the Eagles are going to have to use that ground attack. If the secondary has struggled to the point that it's struggled at so far this season, if your pass rush isn't getting home as much as you would like your pass rush to get home, then you're going to have to rely on not having the Rams offense on the field. And the way you do that is controlling the clock. DeAndre Swift having another huge game. This offensive line opening up huge holes for him. Kenny Gainwell, of course, getting involved in the run game as well. Boston Scott coming back from a concussion. Him getting a couple of plays also. The star of the show for this Eagles game, I think, has to be their running game. I think it has to be DeAndre Swift. Like I said, you're going to have your splash plays from Jalen Hurts to Devontae Smith and to A.J. Brown. I think those guys are going to help get down the field when need be, convert on 3rd and longs. That's going to be a big thing. Hopefully, they do 3rd and 11s where you're handing it off on a run to the outside with Kenny Gainwell. But I think the star of this show is going to be the run game in general, and that means DeAndre Swift has got to go off in this particular game. So I think that's where the Eagles are going to have to exploit what the Rams are doing defensively by keeping their offense off the field. People have done this to the Eagles and their offense over the last couple of years here. Now it's time for the Eagles to throw it back in some other people's faces. And this will be a great opportunity to do it because you are going to have splash plays with Nakua. If Cooper Kupp plays, you're going to have splash plays there. You're going to have a tight end that's going to always seem to be open in Tyler Higbee. That is the most mind-blowing thing I learned going in. I knew the Eagles were bad. I didn't think they were the second worst at defending the tight ends. So that's going to be an unfortunate matchup for the Eagles there. So the only way I think the Eagles are able to combat that and come out with this game with a victory is they win at 24-20 with the run game and DeAndre Swift just going off. And maybe you're going to have another drive where you have a 13-play drive, 10 of those plays are runs. Like they did against the Minnesota Vikings. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, how about this? Bonus me today I'll be up on Fox 29 coming up at 7:45 today with my buddy Eitan Shander. We'll be talking all things Philly sports as we just did with you guys for the last hour. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Jim Hyde, produced the program, did a wonderful job as per usual. Be back with you guys tomorrow night on the Jacob Media YouTube channel following Phillies Braves. So I'll have all that Game 1 coverage for you after NLDS Game 1. See you guys then. Have a great rest of your weekend. Have a great rest of your day. I'm Mark Farzetta. This is the Farzy Show presented by MyBookie. Go to mybookie.ag and use promo code Farzy. Have a great weekend, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye.